The very essence of the mental game is this. The only reason an event matters is because we make it matter.
Welcome to the Mullins Farrier podcast, where I will sit down and converse with the superstars, the overachievers, the masters of our craft. Each episode will be a deep dive into their personal philosophies, their habits, the tools they use, and the secrets to not only their success, but overcoming failure as well.
First, find somebody you can mimic, then find somebody you can stand, and then try to focus on one style until you master that style.
So if you say I can't do something, well, you're absolutely right. But if you say you're going to, you're absolutely right with that too.
People say that you shouldn't define yourself by your work. That is not true.
You know what Dave Farley does when he's, lucky enough to be at the World Equestrian Games? I'm watching other people work.
Yeah.
I don't think we do that enough.
This podcast is for all of you out there who share my passion for the job and the desire to always improve. These interviews will put you in touch with the inner workings of the role models we all want to emulate. So let's get to it.
There's only so many hours in a day, and it's a matter of what you do with them.
Welcome, everyone. A few shopkeeping items before we start. Mark your calendars for the 19th and 20th of August. There will be a Sean Robertson benefit clinic at Cascadia Equine Veterinary Clinic in Tangent, Oregon. The clinicians will be Riley Kirkpatrick, Jacob Manning, and Chris Wycliffe, DVM. Sean, a.k.a. Shrek Robertson, was a second-generation farrier who had shod all of his life and was a mentor to many. He was known for his large stature and his kindness. Sean tragically lost his life due to an auto accident back in December, and the proceeds from this clinic will go to support his wife, Wendy, to help with the expenses from the accident and her, as he was their only source of income. For any inquiries about the event or ways that you can help out, please contact Quentin Gravel at 541-749-0861 or gravelfarrier@gmail.com. That's GRAVELLE Farrier@gmail.com. Also, if next weekend, that being Friday, May the 13th and Saturday, May the 14th, you find yourself in the neighbourhood of Puslinch, Ontario, the Ontario Farriers Association is hosting Jan Krogh for a clinic. The title of the clinic is Therapeutic Shoeing for Sport Horses. Jan is a master farrier from Denmark, and amongst his impressive list of items on his resume is National Team Farrier. If you want to learn more about Jan and his story, you can listen to his interview with Simon Curtis on the Hoof of the Horse podcast. Visit OntarioFarriers.ca for more information. Today being Mother's Day, Boxing Day, we decided to celebrate by having a conversation with a mother we don't often hear about. Kelly Gregory CF has helped numerous students build the foundational skills necessary to become successful farriers in this trade. Her influence has been great in our world, but she likes to work quietly in the background. So much so that even getting a picture for this episode was a challenge. Just imagine how hard it was to convince her to sit down and do the interview. She has done some pretty cool things, including being a competitor on Forged in Fire. I completely gapped and forgot to ask her about that whole experience during the interview, so my apologies to everyone for failing in my journalistic duties. She had some great stories to share nonetheless, and despite the struggles to get her there, we had a fun time. I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I did. Sitting here tonight with Kelly Gregory, and this might be the hardest interview I've ever had to actually get the guest to come and sit down. We've almost had a few attempts of escape, but I think Chris locked the door.
Yeah, I think so.
And the reason I thought you would make such a great interview is because there are so many women that I have met that have come through the school that mention you as a huge mentor and role model to them. And I know you prefer to be in the background.
Yes.
And you actually even said that when I asked about doing this. But I think there's a lot of your story that needs to be heard too, because it's inspiring as well. I know Chris and Cody, I interviewed them in the beginning, and they do tend to take the foreground because you're just happy to keep everything running, but quietly. So I thought it was time you told your end
Thank
of it
you,
as
I
well.
guess.
I guess. So with shoeing, did you grow up around horses? Was that your connection to Chris in the
No, I
beginning?
grew up on a dairy farm, and the horses we had were considered hay burners. We never even had a shoer on the property.
Okay.
Yeah, so no, my dad was a farmer and a dairyman, and the horses we never did anything except ride them around bareback.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you have them because you got...
We had them on a pony as a kid growing up. We'd play barrel race out there bareback in the pastures. We weren't using them for ranching or anything like that. It was just our pets.
Okay. And you come from a fairly big family, right?
I have 4 sisters. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm the
That's a
oldest
lot.
of 4 sisters. Yeah. And
Okay.
probably my father would have kept having them if Mom hadn't put a stop to it because he was trying to get a boy. So,
Okay. Yep.
so I guess I was his boy. So
Right.
I milked cows and
Did you?
yep, I milked one end of the day. We had a dairy farm, and he also worked for UPS. And so one end of the day, when I got old enough, I milked, and he milked the other end. And I really always thought that I was going to go to college, play sports, and go back and milk cows with my dad because I liked milking cows.
Okay.
So
And what kind of cattle?
dairy, Holsteins.
Holsteins. Okay. And so you went off to college to
play sports. Not go to school, play sports.
Really?
Yeah.
And what sports were they?
I had a scholarship, softball, basketball, and track.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you met Chris,
Yes.
I'm assuming.
Yes. And then my first year, I blowed my knee out. I tore my MCL out playing basketball.
Oh.
And I was running like 10 miles a day. I was like overtraining considerably. And so then that kind of slowed down my sports.
So you actually had to do the school stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of.
And what were you taking, and how did you meet Chris, and which subject?
It's a funny story. We were in English class, and I hate English. And I said I picked the smartest guy, and the English teacher had a crush on him. She was always flirting with him, and so I knew I'd get good grades if I stashed on him. It's a true story.
Really? Okay.
He wrote all my papers.
We can say
I
that
had
now. That won't affect your grade.
No, I had power back then. I don't have it now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you both graduated college, and then what happened? How did this story go from here?
Well, Chris was on rodeo team, and
Okay.
the reason he started shoeing horses is because his dogging horse, or roping horse, wouldn't keep shoes on. So he started shoeing for that reason. And then for the first couple of years, we would go around at night after school, knocking on people's doors, trying to make money in college. So we'd go to school all day, have our practices, and then we would head out at Allen County Community College in Iola and knock on all these farmers' doors. And we did some rank horses. The old
Wow.
farmers, that's just the old farm community up there. We did some evil horses. It's a wonder we survived.
Wow. Okay. And
So-
so you learned to do it as well at the same time?
Well, I was the horse
Or
holder.
you were the handler?
I was the handler.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Did he carry on with school, or did he?
yes, well, we
Okay.
were in college, and it was taking me 5 years to get my undergraduate, and so in that time, he got his master's in 1 year.
Okay.
So he took the year. It took me an extra one because of scheduling issues with some of the classes I needed. Is what happened was, I believe that your counselors in college are designed. If you listen to them, you'll end up having to spend more hours in college because
Right.
your only classes offered a certain amount one time, and you might be doubled up and you can't take it that semester and
And lo and behold, you're stuck there paying tuition.
for another year. And so he went in and got his master's in the year it took me to finish up my undergraduate. And I was home economics and teaching degree.
Okay.
So I always liked home economics. I caused less problems in that growing up. I liked sewing and cooking. And now I'm a horse shoer.
And you do all those other things. And
When he was doing his master's, he did a thesis, and then he wrote a pet letter to everybody out there saying, you need to open a horseshoeing school. I need to be the one that runs it for you. And that's how we ended up in Colorado School of Trade. That guy said, okay, he was a gunsmithing school. And he says, hey, I want you to open a school here. So he hauled us out there. On the way out there, I was 8 months pregnant with Cody. We moved all the way. Well, he'd been in the military, so we were moved to Virginia. I lived in the hotel out there as a military wife. Then we moved to Colorado while I was 8 months pregnant with Cody.
wow.
But I had to take my horse. Oh, there's a big old long story because I had to take my horse. I wouldn't let him not take my horse. Everything we owned in the back of a horse trailer.
Yeah.
And we're headed to Colorado, going to stop at my sister's cross-country meet halfway out there. And we're following my dad with no lights on a camper trailer.
Yeah.
And he starts to take a turn, and we didn't make it. And I was following him in my car, and we hit the ditch. And Chris, and he goes flying, and he says, I jumped out of my car, and I ran screaming, and Bubba was the name of my horse. And then about Chris, I'm like, did you kill my horse?
That's funny. He never mentioned that story.
Yeah.
And so then you headed out there, and then he started the shoeing school there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And then from the way he tells it, that you guys actually started to earn a fairly decent living out there.
Oh, yeah, we were. Yeah. But it wasn't a very good quality of life, to be quite honest with you. Because he would leave at 4. I had 2 babies. He would leave at like 4 o'clock in the morning and go. He had like an hour and a half drive through the mousetrap in Denver to get to where we live because I had to live out in the country with my horse.
Oh.
So he had a huge commute because I had to live with my horse.
This horse sounds like it caused a lot of friction.
It did. And then this long story, that horse ended up back here, and Cody rode it through the killer sale years later.
Really?
Poor Bubba.
Oh, Bubba.
Yeah. And then he'd go out and shoot horses at night while I was home with the kids because I didn't work much while the kids were little.
Right, yeah.
And then when we moved here to start this school, we had nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that conversation go?
He didn't take much because I was 10 hours away from my folks. Here or back in this area, I would be close to my folks.
Oh, okay.
So it didn't take much convincing on my part. And I'm not very materialistic, to be quite honest with you. My family, and if it wasn't for Chris, I'd probably just be living in a trailer house somewhere. I don't care about money very much.
Right, okay. Except when you have to spend it.
No, I have to spend it. Yes. Yeah. I would have a lot of money, but I would still be living in a trailer house. It would be in my mattress. Don't come to my house.
Oh, yeah.
You sleep in my spare bedroom. Don't go through your mattress.
Okay.
If it's a little lumpy, don't worry.
And for anyone listening, they're well armed, so don't come here looking for the mattresses.
Good point.
Yeah. Yeah, so your folks live only a couple hours away.
Yeah,
from
2 hours
here,
away.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in Kansas.
Right. At what point did you start helping with the teaching of the school?
Well, we opened this horseshoeing school back here, and we had 1 student and tons of horses.
Oh.
So my education got shorted on the book work and the forge work a little bit because we had so many horses to do, and that's the only way we could keep the doors open. It was with 1 student and me, so it was me and him shoeing 10 horses a day.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. But I've been going, and, of course, I knew everything because I've been watching him do it, right? I was good, right? And before classes started, somebody called, needed horses done, and there was 3 of them. I said, oh, no worries, hon. I'll just go out and do those and be done by noon.
How did that go?
Not so good.
No.
And I don't ask for help easily. I'm in the first one, and I'm like, oh, Lord, what have I done? Can you help, honey? Because I was charging a whole lot less because it was me doing it, right?
Right.
Yeah, that went not so good.
Oh, okay.
There was plenty of times that him teaching me that I knew more than him, and he just go sit on the tailgate.
Until you asked him to help, kind of thing? Yeah. So I know that there are a few people out there who have attempted working with their spouse. And I know that poses a lot of challenges because I know quite a few of those people aren't still with their spouse. How did you guys manage that? Because it must be difficult, first of all, learning off of your spouse, and you have a very strong personality yourself. So I could.
They call Chris the Kelly Whisperer.
Right.
So
Yeah, I heard that tonight.
He has
actually.
the personality that can handle mine. I have a very bad temper, and not so much anymore, but as a young person, I was a little volatile,
Oh, okay.
to be nice. And he handled me well.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
he has his psych degree, I think, is probably the reason we still married.
It came into play a lot.
Yeah, it did. And
Yeah.
it's also why I got a twitch.
Yeah, I've noticed that over the years, and I'm sure I've mentioned it before, where I can tell sometimes when he's just doing his psychology stuff
Oh, yeah.
on you. Yeah.
Yeah.
He quite enjoys that.
Yeah.
Little games all the time. So then with that, you also had 2 young children.
And they never had a babysitter. They went everywhere
always
with us. We
came
didn't
with
have
you.
any family around here. I mean, mom and dad's 2 hours away, but
Yeah.
that's not.
Yeah, you
so-
can't just drop them off and
No,
go to
they
work.
went with us everywhere. They've slept in a lot of stalls. I got pictures of them sitting squatting in a cutting horse barn next to each other with their leaning on each other, falling asleep.
Oh, really? Yeah. And then they both came up in the same environment learning and
Yeah.
as it went. So, and then Jacqueline took the rodeo route, right? Or they both did. in
Yeah,
the
the
beginning,
rodeo
right?
until into high school.
Okay. And then when did you start to see Cody sort of take an aspiration towards the shoeing?
Cody was, I want to say he was 4 when he shot his first pony, and they would fight over minis because they would both,
Oh, okay.
and they'd get paid for it. So we had a lot of customers that had minis that would pay the kids to trim. They wouldn't really get anything done, but they'd be working hard while they were doing it and get
Right.
paid for their mini trimming.
Oh, okay.
And then Jacqueline got to the point that she never wanted to have anything to do with horseshoeing.
Oh, really?
She said, I would never marry a horseshoer. I don't want to be a horseshoer. All I want to do is ride him and train him. And now she's married to one, and she is one, and she likes it more than he does.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she likes shoeing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Cody, Jack went to college on a rodeo scholarship. Cody had scholarships. He could have went and continued on, but horseshoeing was his thing.
Yeah. Oh, quite obviously.
They were competing in a high school rodeo, and Cody broke his wrist, and Chris was driving him to the emergency room, and Cody wasn't worried about losing the saddle, which he was winning at that time. He was worried about how am I going to compete at Calgary. So that was really, you
Telling.
knew at that point rodeo wasn't where he was going.
Right. Yeah.
So
That was the direction.
yeah.
Interesting. And as the school developed, now I've heard the story that you and Chris basically, when you purchased the property, you both had to work together to create the bunkhouse / classroom, right?
Yeah. We didn't even have enough money for a tape measure. We measured with a piece of twine. Back then, I had not done much building, and he done none. And so we didn't know what we were doing. And we hung him upside down in a pair of coveralls and a lariat rope on the roof to put the tent up. And he'd holler, give me a little slack, and I'd have it dallied on a post. It was loud out there, So sometimes you give him a little too much, and he'd squeal. But then, so we didn't know what we were doing. So we hired this guy, a local guy in town, and he would come out and he would be really good till noon, and then he'd go home and have a liquid lunch.
And then not much help.
Well, we had, not knowing anything back then, we had the floor for the upstairs by 1x6s on 24-inch centers. So you walk in, it was like a trampoline. We didn't know any different. That's what he said.
Right.
So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
So it's actually gone through a few remodels.
A lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then did you do it each time, or did you just hire the
No,
gentleman
we
to work
did
till
it.
noon?
We did it until the time before last, and then the neighbors went in there, put the wall in the center, shirred
okay.
up the floor.
Right.
And they built the new bathroom several years ago.
Okay. And then you lived on, there's a house on the premises
Yes.
with the school, and you lived there.
Yeah.
At what point did you decide to move away from there? And was that a big change for you because you're not actually
It was a
on location?
good change, but it was like we had been looking for property. At that point, where Chris and I thought we might actually hit the rodeo circuit. So we
Oh.
built an arena in there, And we were going to just get a bunch of horses and just rope all the time when we weren't shoeing.
Okay.
And then he was out here shoeing, and we were running. Back then, we shod all day with the school, and then we would go shoe until like 10 o'clock at night every single night to keep his doors open for the first few years.
Right.
And he was out here shoeing, and the neighbor said, "Oh, this little farm's coming up for sale." And so he brought me out here, and the weeds were higher than your heads. And I'm like, why in the world would we want something like this? The fences were with bed springs, literally.
Whoa.
Some of the fences had bed springs. I'm like, we can't even keep up with what we got now. What in the world? And we tried to buy it, but the lady that owned it was crazy. It might be something in the air, because people probably think now, like, the owner's still
It's
crazy.
in the water,
It's still in the water. But anyways, several years, you couldn't make a deal with her. And finally, Chris he seen the lawyer in town, and he said, "Well, if you'll make an offer, I just cannot have her. I can't deal with her anymore. So if you'll give me $600 an acre for it, I'll make it happen."
Okay.
So we bought this 250 acres for $600, and like 2 weeks later, somebody offered us $800 an acre for it.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
now it's worth a lot more.
Yeah. Good for you. That's
Yeah, it was kind of a God thing. It found us, and
yeah. No. And the rest is history.
yeah.
Now, was it difficult? So now you're not at the school, and I imagine in some ways that means you can't sort of monitor what's going on, and I've often wondered about that.
Well, when we lived there, it had a lot of advantages, but it also had a lot of disadvantages. So we had disadvantages, like people would be out foraging at 10 o'clock at night, and they'd come knock on your door. There was no personal space. They
Right,
were, would
yeah.
you look at this shoe? They're excited about it, and this shoe. Then there was an Argentine that I had an Aussie that was scared to death of fireworks. And it was around, they were graduating, they were going to shoot off fireworks. And I told them, do not shoot off fireworks. And I'm
Right.
in bed about 1 o'clock. They start shooting off fireworks.
Oh,
And he almost had to walk to the airport. If it would have been for me, he would have had to walk to the airport. And we've had conversations with him since then. He came very close to dying.
yeah. You have softened, but there is still a temper.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And as things progressed, and I mean, then Cody started helping
Yeah,
teaching
pretty
as
early.
well.
Yeah.
I imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
You all sort of seem to, you have your strengths in who you can teach, right? And
Yes.
how does that
It's
play
a
out?
huge blessing. And it's also a blessing because there's 3 of us. And it used to bother the heck out of me is that you'd have somebody in class and you encourage them to go to a clinic. And they'd go to a clinic and they'd come back and they said, "You will not believe what they showed us there. If you pick up the foot like this," and it's something that we had been telling them. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
But it may take 401 times for you to hear it. And depending on who you hear it from on that 401st time is who you got taught by.
Yeah. Right.
And, or it may be that I say, if you hammer this way, it'll help. And Cody says, "Here, do it this way in a different manner." And they pick up on it. So
Yeah.
everybody learns differently. They really do. And if you can play with that, it's helpful for their education. Some people work better with positive reinforcement. Some people work better with a kick in the hind end. And when you figure that out,
Yep, for sure. And I guess I've heard that it can happen where some students will almost try and play you against
yeah,
each
they do.
other. Yeah.
it's like parents. If you
Yeah.
don't get the answer you want from dad, you go to mom.
Yep.
And they'll do that and just see. And you will as well know that if you have 500 horseshoers in a room, you're going to get 580 different
Oh, yeah.
opinions depending on the day.
Yeah.
So, and you'll be running by and somebody will say, "Hey, look at this flat." And you may see something different than the person. And I will tell people that we're going to teach you an easy way to learn the basics, but you're going to go out and you're going to develop your own style. You're going to do it. But while you're here, we're just trying to teach you the basics as easy as possible.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're going to shoot just like us when you get out there, because you're probably not. Different horses require different things. And what we shoot here is not really a lot of times the show world,
Yeah.
It's backyard.
Right. And for you, can you tell, is there like a certain type of student that you have a better time with or that tend to gravitate towards you?
I think it's usually more of a personality thing. You're
Okay.
going to meet people and you like them right off.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you meet people and know that for whatever reason, it's like you have a horse and this person's going to take it to the killer because they can't get along with it. The next person that gets it loves him.
Right.
It's the same thing with people. You're going to run onto people that, whatever reason, they just rub you wrong.
Yeah.
And I get along with them. So,
Right.
it's back and forth. We kind of do that.
Okay. Got you. And you still, even though now you probably don't need to keep the doors open, but you and Chris still go out and shoe horses, do you not?
I love shoeing, yeah. And I hope to be, there's a picture on Facebook of some little old lady that's got to be like 85 years old in her dress shoeing. I said, I want to be known as the oldest woman shoer still going.
Right.
Yeah. So I seriously still love, and I think if I quit loving it, then I shouldn't be teaching it.
Right.
And I think we need to go out and shoe horses because it's different. And after you teach all day and you're having to explain everything, it is fun to go out at night and just shoe and just work and not have to say, here's why I run the rasp this way.
Right.
I'm not nailing like this. I don't question it. You just do it. And I really like it.
Oh, good for you. Yeah. One of the conversations we had this week at the dinner table, if you don't mind sharing, we were talking about how sometimes you have clients where you actually develop quite a strong relationship with them, or you think, until stuff happens and you're unable to make it, or health issues, things like that. What have you kind of learned through those situations?
Loyalty only matters for them when you're giving them what they want.
Yeah. Basically.
If they want this and they want it now, and if you're not, just they're going to move on. And like we talked about, you have to be confident to do this job, and there's a line of confidence and arrogance, and you kind of got to play the middle ground there.
Yeah.
And you think that you're the only one that can do this horse because he's special.
Right.
But the reality of it is that horse will get along just fine when those people decide they're done with you and the next person comes in.
Right.
But as humans, as horseshoers, we have a inflated idea of how good we are.
Right.
And you kind of have to. I mean, if you're going to do this for a living, you have to have that amount of confidence, or you would just be questioning yourself all the time.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And there are people out there without the confidence. They may be quite good, but if they question what they're doing all the time, they're going to be miserable.
Yeah. And even the clients start to pick up on that too.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't have confidence, yeah.
No, it's a downward spiral from there.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there's some people that have way too much confidence.
Yes.
And not the skills to back it.
Yeah. We run into those as well.
Yeah.
Have you come up with ways, like when a student is having a tough time, are there certain techniques that you found can kind of bring them back? Because I know sometimes it seems, because especially you're trying to teach a lot of the fundamentals of something that's a pretty intense and wide scope of skills.
Yeah.
And it's like trying to drink from a fire hose. Are there certain things that you found help when somebody just seems to be not?
Well, we
catching it?
find that there's three components really that we're teaching, right? We have the book work, we have the forge work, and you have the horse work. And it seems like everybody excels at maybe one of those and struggles with the two others.
Right.
And you just got to pick that up. And when they have the one that they excel on, build on their confidence on that one, so that when they're struggling on the other part, they don't just get so frustrated that they run and stick their head in the sand. You have to find what they're good at and make them strong at that. And it's on an individual basis, right? I told Chris, we were discussing the other day, I said, the problem with horseshoeing, it is not a science, but it is a science. So it's not like if you make a cake, you're going to put all the ingredients in, read the list, and when you get out, you got a product.
Yeah.
It is a bit of a science that way, but it's also an art. Yeah. And so the same way with cooking, you can follow that recipe and it'll be just fine. But if you can see and pick up on something, a little bit more of this, a little more of that, then it's better. And horseshoeing is the same way. Mm-hmm. You can put a shoe on a horse that is not perfect, and that horse will probably be just fine. Mm-hmm. But if you pick up on the artistic part of it, you can make it better. Right. So it is a science and an art.
Yes, for
and
sure.
Some people, shaping is the worst.
I don't know how you guys do it.
Shaping is the hardest thing to teach. And we tell them all the time that you're just going to struggle. And then one day you're going to wake up and the light's going to flip on.
Mm-hmm.
And it does. For everybody, they don't believe you when they're beating their heads against the anvil till 2 o'clock in the morning and they still can't see the shape. They still can't see it. And then some of them will say, yeah, it's flickering today. It's flickering. It's almost ready to turn on. It's not there yet.
Well, I've remembered a few flickers in the past.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, if they don't believe you because they're so hard. And it may just be one little kink here or there that they're not seeing. But once they get it, but it is hard. And
Yes.
if you don't have the intensity to stay hooked, then it's a struggle. The shaping is probably the hardest thing to teach. It's the hardest thing for them to learn, unless you're an artist. So we get people that truly are artists, like can draw pictures and
Right.
see things, and they see it better.
Right. And then their hands can follow.
Especially the toe.
Yes.
They cannot. This is a struggle on front feet to quit cutting across the corners. And
Yep. I was still learning lessons on that this visit.
yeah, it's easy to cheat that toe.
Yes, for sure. Now, another thing, as the person who kind of runs in the background, you end up seeing all of the expenses and even unexpected ones that pop up with the school. What are some of the things that you have found maybe surprised you in expenses that you wouldn't have expected, or just ways that it...
Fuel gets me because it's so volatile. You know, the amount of fuel we run through those vans in a week.
Oh, okay.
Would scare most people. And shoes and nails. You know, a normal shoer is going to use a third of the amount of nails that a horseshoeing student does. And they're not, it's not their, you know, they're paid for tuition. So if they got to go through 20 nails to get one nail right, it's not a hardship to them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And they go to pull clips and they pull it the wrong direction. Well, let's not worry about fixing that. We'll just throw that over in the bin.
Another shoe, yep.
Or they clean out the trailers and they're savable shoes and they throw them in the bins.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of maybe my frustrations, but I get it. It's just because nobody knows what behind the scene, how much money runs through.
Yeah.
Your dentist, your doctor, you're like, man, they're overcharging me, right? Because you don't see all the expenses that has to go in to running that business. And nobody does.
Yeah.
Nobody knows your health insurance, your insurance on vehicles, or...
Right. Yeah, I can imagine just the liability insurance alone on something like that must be incredible.
Yeah, the vans you happen to haul people around, that's way more than most people's insurance. So.
Yeah, for sure. Just in sourcing everything, I noticed even we had the conversation tonight about which shoes you were going to use this year and which nails. Has that been a constant thing, or did you typically have something that...
Most of the St. Croix light's always been our go-to.
Okay.
The main reason is for students is that they have to learn to shape them. Like we could get pre-shaped shoes or, you know, but they're not learning that way.
Right.
And they were reasonable. I mean, for waste, you know, students are going to waste a lot of stuff when they're first starting. So But they changed their crease.
Oh,
they went to a flat bottom crease, and the nails don't fit, and they don't nail very nice now.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not good.
That's not good.
No. And with the sourcing of things, do Farrier supplies and stuff like that, will they work with schools?
Farrier supplies not so much. Well, that's not true. Anvil brand helps out some.
Okay.
But St. Croix used to be, or Mustad used to be pretty good. And we have gotten a lot of shoes give to us in the past.
Right.
Con Forge is pretty good with schools.
Right.
But mainly it comes from manufacturers, not so much the supply stores.
Okay. Yeah, because I would imagine in seeing several of my peers have gone through apprenticeships, and whatever the person they apprenticed under used, that's
why I try to tell these people. I don't know that they get it, but nobody likes change very much. That's why I'm still married. I especially don't like change. But you know, whatever you learn with, that's what you're comfortable with, and you're not going to want to change it. So some of them are very short-sighted, not understanding that.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be a long-time customer, right?
Yeah,
the ones that carry on with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Marguerite took care of us for many, many years. I love Maggie. So
yeah, I've heard many good things about her.
Yeah.
Yeah. with your journey to get your CF, what was that like?
That was a long, long, long time ago.
Was it?
That was
Yeah.
a very, very long time ago. I don't even remember what year that was, but my kids were still little,
Oh, okay.
very tiny when I did the CF.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
Yep.
I'll tell you. So when I was going through school, this is a story that a lot of people like, is that, you know, if you miss a quiz question, you owe 10 push-ups
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, one night, Chris laid in bed and watched me do 250, because if you don't do it the one night, then you got interest. And I did 250 one night because I wasn't going to get special treatment, right?
Right.
I did special treatment. Even after I shot horses all day, cooked supper, did laundry, and cleaned the house before I went to bed.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
And another funny story I feel like I should ask you to recount for us is the one about Dusty, when you actually got to finally get away from the school for a holiday.
Oh, well, so what it was my husband has genius ideas, but he was going to go to England. So he was in England.
Oh, okay.
He was in England doing whatever he was doing over there, and he had hired Dusty to come help me run the school for a little while. And my kids were very little. They weren't in school, and he'd been gone for a while, so I felt like I was neglecting them a little. On Wednesdays, they had story hours in town.
Okay.
And so we had somebody show up in their trailer, and I should have known he was in his sweatpants, and he didn't really know what he was doing, whatever.
Yeah.
But I was only gone an hour. And I come back, and the horse was dead with a hole in his head the size of a softball.
Oh, my gosh. And so what had happened?
Well, the owner was holding the horse. And, you know, normally Dusty was young.
Yeah.
And Dusty really didn't do bad horses. Like, you know, if it was a bad horse back then, he would tell you he didn't do bad horses.
Okay.
And the owner was owning the horse. And I think, for the best of my encounter that I know what happened, was he had the lead rep over the horse's nose and was cutting off air. And so every time that horse would get low on air, he would just rear up. And, you know, if you have one that's rearing up, you want to keep a hold of the head. I'm guessing the guy just let go, and the whiplash must have just hit that concrete.
Oh.
And poked a hole in it. And I'm calling Chris. I'm like, because he's always used to tell stories, you know, something bad happens to a horse that you're showing that you'd be doing $100 horse, but when you're done with it, that's going to be a $10,000 horse if something bad happens to it, right?
Right, yeah.
And I'm like, that's all I kept running through my head. Oh, my gosh. He leaves me here. We kill a horse. No, we didn't have no money. We're barely making it, right?
Right.
And we killed the horse. And this guy, I come back from story hour. This guy's crying. And I'm like, what the heck? What am I supposed to do? I tried to get a hold of Chris in England, and of course the time changed.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, and finally he calls me back, and yeah, it was interesting times. And the Dusty was like, I would never own a horseshoe in school. I don't know what. No, why would anybody own a horseshoe in school?
And now here we are.
Yeah. Oh, we got funny stories with Dusty. He come down there to take certification. He's like, I don't need to build a bar shoe. Nobody needs to know how to build a bar shoe.
Really?
Yeah.
What changed him?
Killing a horse at Heartland Horse.
Oh,
I don't know.
just sent him on the right path
Yeah,
from there
I guess.
on.
I don't know. You know, life has the funny ways of anything I ever said never to, I end up doing. I said I'd never live in town, and our first apartment was in the square.
Oh, really?
And upstairs. I said, I would never have my child born around Christmas. That's just mean and cruel. Cody's birthday is December 26th.
That's right.
Don't say never unless you
Okay.
want it to happen.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. Another thing you are very notorious for, and I might be part of the reason that story gets pushed, is that you are an amazing cook. And usually during the certification course and the blacksmithing course, you always have the students, you and Chris have us out to your house. I've had the benefit of eating several of your meals, and you have your own method where if somebody asks you what the recipe is,
It's never the same twice, so
That's
you never
right.
know what you're going to get. It's whatever I have.
Right.
So, but I was raised on the farm. Mom cooked every meal. We didn't eat out. We didn't, I learned to cook at a very young age, 4-H. So I don't know. It's just, I was raised doing it. So
yeah. And I don't know how you you pull it off, but every time it's
Well,
delicious.
Thanks, but you haven't been here for a while because Chris will tell you this story. I took him home for like the first time to my parents' house, and I made him eggs and butter flavored Crisco.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, I couldn't eat them. He was like, so that was. He was. I don't know why he didn't just run right then, but
You
Mom-
tried to scare him off, and he stayed.
yeah, it was disgusting. There's been a few burnt offerings that treating him like a god, but not too many. Yeah.
Well, let's do the short answers then.
Okay, sure. Was that a short joke about how tall I am?
No, it wasn't. You just made it one, though. This portion of the podcast is called the Stratum Tectorium. These are the short answer, surface stuff questions, but it's okay if the guest wants to go deeper. Enjoy. Do you have a favorite book?
Should I say Chris Gregory Farrier textbook?
Well, you said it, so now
50
that's
Shades
covered.
of Grey. Actually, probably the books that I read that like I didn't even sleep was the Left Behind series.
Oh, really?
There's a Left Behind series for adults, and like I would start reading it. We still lived in town back then, and I had to get up at work at 6:30 or so, and at 3:00 I can't put the book down. So probably
I'll have to. What's the premise of those?
The Rapture.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, it's is not exactly, but it is intense.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, of course, it has everything from sex to fights, and it was very intriguing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kept your attention, obviously.
Yeah, and I don't read that much.
Okay. So they must have been really good.
Yeah, they were.
Favorite brand of nails?
Oh boy,
Yeah. Controversial question.
yes, it is right now.
You don't even have to answer.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
We'll skip
Victory.
that. Okay. There you go,
My
Mark.
favorite kind are the free ones.
Now, what shoe sizes do you generally have to stock the most of?
Aughts and ones.
Okay.
Yeah,
Favorite make of rasp?
that's also very controversial right now. Right now, I'm using the Cody James for what we do. Is not a good finish rasp, but for the mud and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I purchased one of those, and it is great for that.
Yes, and we added that actually to the students list because of we may be in knee high mud. It's not like people shoe on a regular basis in their business. What we
Right.
do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, you can get a lot more longevity out of those.
Yeah. I've heard good things about I want to try the Dark Horse. Have you tried it?
No.
Because it's a wider shave edge rasp.
Oh, okay.
So I think we put an order in, but I think they may be hard to get.
Oh, okay. Like everything.
Yes.
Probably sitting in a shipping container right now.
Yeah.
Your dream Farrier rig.
My favorite rig, and people are going to laugh, but we've had several. We've had them out of back of trucks. We've had them in trailers. But my favorite one is the Southwestern Bell truck trailer that we had. We turned your telephone. You guys don't have Southwestern Bell, but your telephone trailers.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
So it was the most organized, easily, because most of like the ones we're shooting out of now, they cost a lot, and everything just gets thrown everywhere in there.
Yeah.
They're a disaster. They're
It's chaos.
chaos.
Yep.
And those things, every compartment, your nails had a door. They stayed in. The shoes, they had pull-outs for their acetylene bottles and stuff.
Okay.
And they were a shoe rack, so they pulled out. There's a separate container spot for your propane, all by itself. It was my favorite.
Oh, okay. And that was a trailer, not a...
Yeah, it was a trailer.
Okay.
Yeah. Having the trailer frees up, you can drive whatever truck if one breaks down.
Yes,
and
right.
wherever we shoe, it's not a hardship. I know there are some people maybe can't get trailers in where they got to go tight places, but
Right.
we're wide open. So
Right. And plus you need a van to carry all the
yeah, the students.
students. That's a first for me. I haven't heard one of those.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
Favorite rounding hammer.
Texas Jim Pours.
Okay. Favorite type of bar stock to work with. Do you do handmaids at
Concave.
all?
I have and I can, but I like concave.
Yeah.
Those are pretty.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Depends on who does it. Sometimes my
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it pretty.
Yeah.
That's not the word I'd use.
Yeah.
Favorite pastime after work?
Riding, and used to be roping, but now that I'm getting old, I don't have much energy after work.
What's the next thing on your bucket list?
I think I've got a colt and I'm riding now, and I think just get him going down the road so I can go with the grandbabies to the rodeos. They're all getting ready to start hitting the play days, and
oh, cool.
And so I want to be the grandma that's going with them.
That's great. Favorite brand of keg shoe? This could be another controversial one.
Still just what we've had, St. Croix, before they changed the crease.
Right.
I don't know now. I mean, but actually, probably my favorite is Eventers. If I was just to shoe for the rodeo horses, the Eventers are beautiful shoes.
Okay. There we go.
But they cost too much, so.
Ideal number of horses to shoe all around in one day?
By myself, probably 4. With Chris and I, when we're shoeing as a team, we can get through a lot more horses. It takes me about an hour to shoe a horse by myself. But when we're shoeing together, we're done with 2 in like 30 minutes. So, we're...
And when you do it, do you tag team one horse, or do you just each take your own kind of thing? And
it just depends. If we got 4 horses at that stop, or if we have 3 horses, and he hates clinching.
Okay.
So if there's a way that he can end up not clinching his horse and I have to clinch his horse, and it used to be when I first started, I didn't stand up. I just stayed clinching and pulling and do it, and he'd shape, and then for several years, and then, it's good to have a break and go to the Amfly.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's worth learning to shape so you can get up.
That's motivation right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't have to do that ratcheting thing when you're back, when you try to stand up
It's
at the end of the
that
day.
Being on the stand is harder on your back than actually working on the horses. I don't quite understand that, especially now we've got a blind. It's really hard. On the stand, you can't see when you're clinching by braille.
Right.
Till we got contacts. Poor horses, the last several years, I do think we've been shoeing by braille. Till we got contacts.
Favorite anvil?
Hey, Button.
Oh, yeah? I don't know that one.
They're the old antique.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Do you have a favorite inspirational quote?
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
That's a good one. And I think I know the answer to this. Do you have a Farrier Terrier?
Blueberry is with us everywhere. Texas would go everywhere if we let her, but in the wintertime, Texas goes everywhere with us. So.
Oh, okay. This one might be kind of a moot point. If you're stumped on a case or need backup, who do you call?
Cody. Well, Chris is with me normally, so I don't have to call him. Yeah, if we're shoeing and because sometimes you're sure you see what you see. And that's what we tell students, when you're trimming, when I go out and I shoe a horse, I go around, I shoe the whole thing, and then I come back and check my balance and level with a fresh eye.
Yes,
because
that's big.
And students, the reason that we can see when they're out of level and out of balance so easily is because we didn't trim the foot.
Yes.
So, they get stuck and they may dig a hole and they think that they're doing it right. And they come to you and you say, I don't know, something's wrong, but I can't figure it out. So I'll tell them, I say, now get up, go walk around in a circle, come back and pick it up. And then they will see it. But for whatever reason, your brain and your eyes don't communicate sometimes. And you're doing just the opposite of what you should be doing.
Yeah.
So, and I try to convince them that when they're trimming, that's what they should do. Don't finish the foot completely. Trim it
to what you think it is.
To what you think it is. Do a nice job, and then go back one more time just to look at it, and you'll see spots as far as flat mainly. But.
Yeah. I've found that almost every time.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite shoe or package for a mystery lameness when the client doesn't know what it is or won't pay for a vet?
Yeah, the navicular egg bar shoe.
Yeah. Okay.
That one seems to allow that horse, whatever the problem is, to be able to find the spot. Or the cup shoe. Cup shoe seems to fix a lot of stuff too.
Yeah.
You're not sure. If the money's not an option, which it is most of the time with our clients, then I like the navicular egg bar. But if it's not, then I find that the cup Omni breakover thing works a lot for those horses.
Yeah. I've heard so much about the cup shoe, like in discussing it with everybody here this week. It seems
Oh, really?
to be, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's crazy how it will, for whatever reason, makes a horse comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. I just recently embraced the concept and I've seen some pretty cool results.
We don't
too.
buy, I mean, we do it. You can take a cake shoe and make it
Yeah.
pretty easily.
Exactly.
And the onion heel shoe
Yeah.
works really good on a lot of horses. So,
Right.
depending on what they do for a living. But
Mm-hmm. What do you use as your planner or agenda?
we have an appointment book that's old style. Each page is a month of the
Yeah.
glance. And Cody tried to get us to switch over to technology, and so that when we put it in, it would because
you could all
you're
see it.
scheduling. We're scheduling 3 different businesses with Cameron and Jacqueline because Cameron and Jacqueline come and work at the school when we need them,
Right.
and we're trying to make it work for. And we have clients that in the wintertime that they still go out and help. So all 3 of the whole groups will go to these places that students do in the summertime, and we tried that, but. It's, for me, if I can look at a week written down, there's something about it being written down. I can remember the whole week.
Yeah.
Because each day must be written a little differently, or there's something that clicks in my brain. But you put it on the computer screen, forget it. I couldn't tell you where I'm going tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
You're preaching to the choir here.
yeah, I just can't switch over. We tried.
Yeah.
It was ugly. And poor Cody, tried to bring in the new stuff. And
It just didn't have
remember, I don't like change.
it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was thinking that. I could just imagine how that went.
Yeah.
What's your favorite method of soothing aches and pains?
KT tape.
Yeah.
Cody says I can bring somebody back from the dead.
Just a little KT tape.
We used to use Swear No More, but truth of the matter is we don't do much.
Right. Yeah.
Exercise,
Yeah.
importance of something besides shoeing
Yes.
to keep your body in shape.
Yeah. For sure. I've had quite a few people say that.
Yoga. I hated stretching. All my sports, I never stretched when I run long distance. And I was like, they used to, I couldn't even bend over and touch my toes. I was so tight, but I
Right.
was a little bit more muscle bound back then. But now yoga really keeps me going. Like
Okay.
every other day I'll do yoga, and it's helping.
Okay. Like this is just you would watch a yoga video or something, or
No.
you've got
Yeah, I
Just
just
a
do my
routine.
move. Yeah, push-ups and downward dog and the balance poses, especially for bad knees and stuff. I think the stabilizer muscles that you use for the balance poses.
Yeah. Before the lockdown happened, I was doing yoga and it did,
Yeah.
seem to have quite a good effect.
Yeah, well, it's good for your core. People don't really pay that much attention to it. They think it's a sissy thing, but it will build your core fast.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can think it's a sissy thing until you're in the class
Yeah.
sweating it out and
Yeah.
and a grandmother is
Yeah.
just killing it beside you.
Yeah, and you're huffing and puffing like you're having a baby. Yeah.
Yep. Favorite drink?
Well, I used to love Diet Pop, but the food police around here have stopped me. So
Oh,
I guess
no.
kombuchas are now my
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So they use the don't you want to live long for your grandbabies?
Oh, wow.
It's mean.
Heartless.
Heartless. But I like my Diet Pop when I go on vacation with my parents.
That's when you get to have it.
Yeah.
And Cody had some homemade kombucha. Is that what you're having?
No,
Okay.
I tried that and it grew mold. I was like, I'm not a science. Jacqueline grows it. My
Oh, does
sisters
she?
do it.
Oh,
And I
okay.
tried it once. I bought the whole system, and the first batch I look in there, and I'm like, man, I'm not drinking that. So I buy mine.
Okay. Yeah. A little safer that way.
Yeah, I think so.
Less room for error.
Yeah,
Do you have a favorite genre of music?
country.
Country.
Yeah.
You already said you work out. What would you have been if not a farrier?
About cows.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I had all my sisters were coaches. They coached. My one sister coaches, and we all went to school for play sport. And I figured I'd be coaching and maybe teaching or home milking cows. So
Right. Yeah. It's funny. Every dairy farmer I know has a secondary job just so they can be a dairy farmer, right?
Yes, yes. I mean, people, if you're a dairy farmer, you enjoy what you do. I mean, you love your animal. I mean, we did. I mean, I liked it.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm kind of I don't like being around people that much. That's one reason I don't, So
Which
the
is
animals
surprising.
never sassed me back.
Right, yeah.
Some of them did, and they kicked you. But funny story. So I milked one end of the day. My dad milked the other. And then I went off to college. And we had this one old cow that she just, if you sucked any air at all when you got ready to milk her, she would just kick the living snot out of you. So while I was gone, my mom said she was bruised. I come home and she's beat up. She's got bruises all over the place. And I said, okay, Mom, I'll take you up there. I'll show you how to do that so Frisky doesn't get you.
Frisky.
So I crawl in there and I no longer, and that heifer kicks me, knocks me down, starts stomping the crap out of me. And my mom is over on the ground, rolling around laughing. Oh yeah, you're going to show me how to do this. You guys should have come on. I'm going to show you how to do this. I'm seriously, I'm wondering if I'm going to get out of this mess I'm in. And she's literally rolling around on the ground out there. Yeah, that was a funny story.
It's funny how you always remember the names of the bad ones.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did we decided baby dolls, velvets, sweetie pies. If you draw any of those up, just say, I'm sorry, we can't schedule you. Devil, evil.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the good ones.
Oh, okay.
Baby dolls are not.
Not? Okay.
Dollies.
Well, I'll make sure I don't. And I guess the last question is the COVID question. If you were stuck in a shop with somebody for a month, who would you want it to be?
Cody and Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Easy enough. I kind of figured you'd say that.
Yeah.
Well, hey, was that so?
No, that wasn't
too
painful.
painful.
No, it was fun. You're
Okay.
fun. You make everybody at ease, though.
Well, thank you
If you can
so
make
much.
me at ease doing this, you can do anybody.
I'm all right. Okay. Well, I will roll forward with that. The next time somebody's uncomfortable, I'll say, Kelly said you better settle down.
Yeah, it's no problem.
Well, thanks again very much for doing
Thank you very
this.
much. It was a lot of fun.
And for all of the people you've inspired out there. So,
Thanks.